So today I'll be discussing some of the top questions I always get asked or I always see in the space about automation. So let's just dive into it and I'll give you guys a whole breakdown. So the first question is, how often do automations break after delivery and how do you handle maintenance, right? So basically the question is coming from the place of you work with a client, you deliver the project to them, and then it breaks, it stops working. How do you guys keep that maintained, right? So for me, there are a couple of things that you want to do. I think number one is being honest. Integrity, I think, is the best policy. So always go to your client, tell them, hey, I'm sorry this broke. Do a debug of the reasons so that they can understand why it broke and that maybe it wasn't part of negligence. Maybe it was an API change. Maybe it was something unexpected. Like, let them know. Don't just be silent. And then usually I would just offer to help them fix it up for free, especially if, the project's not working because of something I did. I don't mind stepping in to just make sure that it works off the bat. But I think this is also an opportunity for you guys to hone in your business models to be able to see that this is where you can upsell to a retainer, where you can tell your clients, hey, why don't you sign me on a retainer so that you have peace of mind, so that whenever anything happens, I'm always going to be there to make sure that it works. And you don't have to pay me actively or anything, but just know that if there's any issues, I can always be here for this particular rate. And I have that with a few other clients who I built projects for one time, but I have this retainer system where, they would pay me whenever I need to do work for them. Or again, if it's more of a bigger client, long-term thing, they can even just be paying you a small maintenance fee over time and you just make sure everything keeps working. So that's one way to kind of work through that situation where automations are breaking and you want to be able to maintain them for your client. Another question I have here is, I want to sell AI voice agents to SSMA owners, but you have 0 clients. How should you get leads? So I think the number one way for getting leads is Upwork. I think especially if you're new, you can just go onto Upwork and start to get projects and you begin to understand what the system of freelancing looks like. Once you're done with Upwork, and you have a few projects, you have some social proof, then you can scale with cold email, and then that can just allow you to do it. Another thing I've been seeing that is underrated for sure is, even if you have time and you're in a local area and you know who exactly you want to reach out to, you could go door to door. But if you're doing SSMA, I don't think door to door would work. So cold email, after getting your experience through Upwork, I would say is definitely a key here, right? So let me quickly show you guys the cold email system I use. That's instantly.ai. You can see I'm running a few campaigns for myself, and these are my email accounts. So instantly.ai is a really good tool for setting up cold email infrastructure, and it's embedded with AI, so it just makes everything a much, much smoother process. Okay, let's go to the third question. So let's say you only have $120 to start. How do you launch your cold email agency with that budget, right? So let's break it down from the beginning. First, you want to get a done-for-you mailbox provider like Zammel. So I'm going to show you guys what Zammel looks like. So this is Zammel. And with Zammel, basically, you can buy domains and you can buy mailboxes. And each of these mailboxes will be the mailboxes that you'll be using to send out your cold emails. And I think you need to understand about cold emails, about Zammel, about this whole process, is that you never want to use the actual domain, which is associated with your own company or website. Because if anything happens and the cold emails are no longer being delivered or they're being marked as spam, that can ruin the reputation of your main domain and your website if the two are associated. So you want to use different names. For example, as you guys can see here, in mine, I use names like Get Channel Lab, Go Channel Lab, Hi Channel Lab, whereas my main domain is channellab.com. So I make sure I don't associate the two, and that allows me to keep that brand identity. I can also do forwarding. Forwarding is basically when you say, if anyone visits hichannellab.com, send them directly to channellab.com, right? So that helps to keep those two things together. So that would be the first thing I'll say that you guys can do is you can buy your domain and buy your mailboxes from there. Then what you need to do is export those to Instantly. So once you get your mailboxes, you export them to Instantly, for example. And Instantly is the tool I previously showed where you can actually set these to be run, right? Now, once you've bought your domains, you buy 3 or 4, maybe that costs about $35. Zammel costs about $33 for 9 to 12. You set up Instantly for about $37. So I think that would give you just maybe around $90, give or take if you add the 10, about $100. And then you can use the remaining 15 for scraping leads from Apollo, or using Make.com or NA10 to connect to an AI for personalization, right? That will cover most of those costs, right? So once you start signing out those campaigns, once you're familiar with the process, I talk about this in my community, I talk about this in my other videos, you'll be able to literally begin your AI agency from the ground up and begin to get customers, clients, and start building up. The thing about this business is, I'm not gonna lie to anyone, it's not an easy business, right? Like, there's a lot of work. You need to understand sales. You need to figure out fulfillment. You need to figure out, client management, right? There are a lot of moving steps, but I will say that if you do put into work and the reps, you will make money. Like, this industry is growing and the demand is greater than ever before. So I do have to say that it's there for the taking for anyone who's willing to take. And the other thing I will say about this industry is that the business model is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Simple as in, it's not like you're trying to start a restaurant where you need to figure out how do I get ingredients on a regular basis, refrigeration, and all this other kind of stuff, right? It's a simple business model where, all you need to understand is how to make these automations, how to understand what a business needs, and then how to sell to them. And if you can do all of those things, then you can literally begin to make money online with AI automation. So yeah, if you have some of these questions, I hope this helps with whatever you guys are thinking about. Feel free to respond in the comments for any other questions that you guys have, and I'll respond to them in the next video. But till then, I'll see you guys in the next one.